Very much, and for everybody who's made it this far, I have a lot of admiration for your patience. I'm Jack Backus. I'm a principal at Provident Data Centers and leader of Provident's NeoCloud Services group. And I've spent pretty much my entire career in AI. Before returning to Provident, I spent a decade building data center infrastructure and platforms at LinkedIn to orchestrate over 2 million AI workloads a day across our fleet of hundreds of thousands of servers. And after that, another company I co-founded, currently, I'm not with them anymore, but they offer the most reliable platform in the industry for AI-enabled data transformation. And then Provident Data Centers has developed and transacted over 4,500 megawatts of data center nameplate capacity in this cycle. And then my division, NeoCloud Services at Provident, builds the physical infrastructure to house the next generation of AI cognition. So I'm one of the fortunate few in my career that understands each stage of the process and how to build organizations in every layer of the AI value chain, from dirt to infrastructure to inference and to application deployment. And how AI enables value creation for an organization and then can affect the credibility of people and organizations that embrace it. So the title of this talk is not the death knell for jobs. And that's true. There's a boom that's currently happening and coming in AI-enabled skilled employment. There is no death knell for jobs, but there is, in my view, a bell tolling, but it's not for jobs. The real death knell is for an organization's credibility. So let me explain what I mean. For almost 40 years, Provident has been continually successful by endeavoring to be a high-trust organization. So our parent company is a real estate development company. It's a family business for me. And we have had this entire time a simple principle, which is to say what you mean and stand by what you say. And so I'm going to introduce you to a word that we've started to use at Provident as we've deployed our own internally, our own AI workflows. And that word is vouchcraft. And it means simply the capacity of an organization or an individual to stand behind their work. It's it's a metric for whether you're a high trust organization. So hold on to that word and we'll come back to vouchcraft later. Before we do, I want to be clear a little bit about what's happening. And I had a visual. I don't know if it got into it unfortunately didn't get into the talk. Enterprise AI, there were a number of reports that came out in the last month, but enterprise AI is the fastest scaling software category in history. Enterprises spent $37 billion in 2025 on AI. And that's up from $11 billion in 2024. And in a report from OpenAI from a few weeks ago, 75% of workers in 2025 have said that their AI platform saved them an hour of time every day. And for power users, it's more like 10 hours a week. And so then they said that 3/4 of users were able to expand their capacity through using AI. So they're able to take on tasks that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So not only is it an efficiency gain, it's also a gain of function for workforce. And the next is that in our own experience, the workers in your organization are going to adopt AI whether you do or not. So when we surveyed our own employees, we've about 100 employees, and we surveyed them, 95% were already using some form of AI platform, ChatGPT, in their workflow, which creates a risk. And so that was one of the big things as an organization, we said, okay, well, we're going to take on an AI enablement program. And so all that comes together to show why enterprise inference token usage has increased 350 times in 2025. So just almost an elevator, just a vertical line of increased utilization. And it only really gets better from here. So what this shows, this chart, you're right there in the yellow part. And so what this shows is the coherent memory capacity, the combined memory capacity of a single chipset. So not a whole rack, but a single chipset in terms of the amount of context that one chip can have. So the current state of the art is the GB200, GB300, where you've got up to about we'll call it about 900 gigabytes of memory. So that's how much memory a single chip can have. When you get into the next couple of generations, that goes up to about 3.5 terabytes per chipset. And so that's about that's about 100 times the size of Wikipedia. So one set of chips can hold enough context and knowledge to represent about 100 times the size of Wikipedia. And then also in the next generation, the entire rack can work as basically one virtual chip. So there'll be 72 chipsets all working together to create 200 terabytes of context. And the human brain can hold about 72 terabytes. So the entire memory capacity of the human brain. And so the reliability is going to continue to improve and the capability will improve, and we're heading towards systems that match domain experts in increasing number of categories. But this creates a problem as an organization. So if you're an AI-enabled organization, then if we're entering a world where anyone plus AI can do anything, you write the memo, build the model, draft the contract, produce the analysis, if everyone can produce at the same apparent level, then capability stops being a differentiator. And so what is the differentiator for an organization? In our view, what's left is your credibility. Can you stand behind what you produce? Can your organization? And to us, that's where we use the term vouchcraft. Because AI utilization doesn't just create value, it also creates potential risk. And here are 3 ways that I see that risk shows up. The first is slop. So you've seen slop, maybe you've seen it on LinkedIn, polished and confident and technically coherent analysis that's also confidently wrong. A year ago, it was easy to spot. You'd read it and everything was kind of the same. It was like the same brand of content. But now it's more difficult, and it's going to become more difficult, and it's going to tarnish your reputation. So when we introduced AI enablement at Provident, our thesis was that every piece of AI content that gets produced was a potential reputational liability. And so slop doesn't just add 0 value, it actually adds negative value to your organization and can erode trust and attacks the foundation of your vouchcraft. The second is a hollowing of talent. So this is less immediately noticeable, but if a senior analyst plus AI can do the work of 3 junior analysts, then why hire junior talent? And then from below, if a junior analyst with AI can do the work of a senior analyst, then how do you verify that they actually understand anything? And so maybe you stop hiring, but then judgment is built through repetition and years of being wrong and learning why and knowing and going through the reps. And if you start hiring people who don't know, then where do your next senior employees come from? And so you're hollowing out your talent pipeline. And one day you'll need the institutional knowledge that they built that no longer exists because, because you have people there who are doing more and more and more because of their AI capabilities, but they can't keep up with it. And so hollowing out your talent attacks your vouchcraft over time. The third is the invisible cumulative risk that can accrue. So if AI gets just good enough, then the errors start becoming invisible. So there might be errors that creep into your deck or creep into your assumptions. I mean, we were just comparing, using our AI internal. So internally, we decided to adopt Copilot as an organization after, it was I was surprised that that's where we went, but we were using it internally. It was giving us some numbers in the market. I was like, this just doesn't seem right. And then we went and validated it, and it just wasn't right. And so, but if we had just used it, if we hadn't challenged it and said, no, this doesn't pass the smell test, then it would have just creeped its way into our assumptions. And so, you might be 90% right, and then you might be 10% catastrophically wrong because you just kind of trusted the AI output. And you won't notice that because it's this slow rot and erosion that happens over time. So, back to, this is the tension that every organization faces. That the AI creates value, you want to capture the value, but then it also creates risk, and so you need the capacity to stand behind what you're doing, and you have to choose to be both cautious and aggressive. And so, to me, that creates this, or not just to me, but when we thought about it, that kind of creates this quadrant of your appetite for risk, and then also your ability to still control that. And so, if you just keep out of the game, you're either irrelevant or stagnant. And then if you take on AI risk, but then you don't really think about how this might affect your credibility, then you become, it becomes a liability. Really, you need to be able to do both. And so, I can talk a little bit about what we did. Most of how we organized this was just from a policy and sort of philosophy perspective. We decided not to institute a lot of technology and tooling and governance in order to do this. It's more of a, hey, these are the expectation here. And so what we tell our employees is when you're using AI tooling, the first thing that you need to do is you need to bring your own thesis, right? You don't go to chat, for us it's Copilot. You don't go to Copilot and say, what's the answer to this? What are, what should I do in this situation? You come and you say, I'm in this situation. This is what I think should happen. This is my plan. And then you use the AI to kind of challenge and steelman what you're doing. So that's the first thing that we do. The second is to own your outputs. So it is never acceptable to say, I sent this email. I don't know what's in it. Copilot wrote it. That is just, no. It's just like if you were, had an assistant help you on a presentation, which, I had some people help me, right? It's my presentation, right? And I'm going to own the presentation. And so this was another philosophy that we have. And then the third is, that should say think for yourself, right? So what that should say is that ultimately you're not just responsible for what you send out. You're responsible for really knowing what you're doing still. You can't let AI replace your brain. And so so the result for us in our rollout, so we rolled out Copilot to everybody, is we've had 68% sustained adoption of AI tooling for about 6 months now, which is great and this also for us, this is kind of a test of our overall AI utilization thesis. Where is utilization going? And we just know internally, it's been going great. And then it's showing up now in the reporting more in the market. When you look at inference token usage in the enterprise. And the reason this is important to us is as developers, we want to have as much confidence as we can in the thesis, and we want to kind of separate out from the noise that we hear in the market. So the headlines saying there was this MIT study that had said 95% of enterprise AI projects fail, and that just seemed incredulous to me. Like, that can't be true, because if that were true, then we wouldn't be making billions and billions and billions of dollars of investment in AI. And so that was actually, we had that up on the wall as like 95. This says 95% fail. That can't possibly be true. And so we had a really great success, and we did all of this by increasing accountability, not decreasing it. And so a little bit, just to remind you, so Provident Data Centers, we think about these, so we think about our role as developers in the space as building the infrastructure to house cognition and providing really the right site, validated and highly credible at the right time to our customers, and then ultimately to house on our infrastructure. And then my group, the NeoCloud Services group within Provident, takes it beyond the land and really is providing the right-sized turnkey data centers at the right time for enterprise and NeoCloud customers. And so, we've been consistently trusted, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, by NeoCloud, enterprise, hyperscale, financial companies, utilities, partners across the industry. So if that's you, I'd love to talk. Finally, thank you, and thank you for listening to all the lightning talks. There is a bell tolling, and it's not for jobs. I'm very bullish on jobs, but as an organization, you need to decide how you're going to use AI and how you see the value without creating these friction risks. So thank you very much.